Okay, welcome to my channel. And I've got Vin Armani with me.
What's going on?
Um, well, everything is crazy as usual, so no problem there. But I wanted to do a follow-up on your discussion on your Vin and Dave podcast about the NPC meme,
Okay.
because I thought that this is to me, the NPC meme is it's like a sign of the times, you know?
No, I agree. It's a deep meme, man. The more I think about it, the more I'm like, wow, this is got everything in it. It's Freudian, it's Jungian, it's all over the place.
Yeah, it's a fantastic form of communication.
hmm
And so when I saw it, I actually thought that the person who came up with it must have watched my show, because I
Surprise, surprise on that one.
I didn't understand that it originated outside of Bitcoin.
Mm.
Because I didn't see it. I saw it first in. I was just biased because I saw it first in Bitcoin. Oh, and I saw that somebody was using it. He was using it with Charlie Lee.
What was the Charlie Lee meme? What was he trying to say? How Charlie Lee is an NPC? Oh, because of the color? Because he's like silver? Because he's
No,
gray?
no, no. Because Charlie Lee copycatted. He's a copycat. He copied
Right. Okay.
Bitcoin
Okay.
and he's pretending to be an inventor. So he's really an NPC.
Okay, I get. Well, the question is though, is the NPC? I think the thing about the NPC is that the NPC is unaware, right? Like that's when it like really cuts pretty deep. So when I
Yeah.
when I first saw it, everybody was saying that it was, they were referring to sort of like the reactionary left, and so it was like there was like the orange man bad thing, and all of these people who are lean more to the right, they they were using it for the sort of reactionary left, and all of these tropes and memes that are on the left, particularly orange man bad, right? That was like the deepest one, to where it was like, wait, why don't you like Trump? What is it that you don't like about him? And it's like, well, he's orange, he looks like a DeVito. And it's like, okay, okay, but I mean, do you have anything more to your personal political philosophy than that? No, not
Okay,
really.
wait. I don't think that I met people who didn't like Trump because he's orange, but I would say that yeah, I met many people who just didn't like him, and it just seemed like they were so emotional
Yes.
that that it was hard to talk to them about why they didn't like him.
Well, because it's programming. I think that's the power of the NPC meme, is that it pulls out people's programming, and it shows it to them, and people very much don't like being shown their programming, because we like to think that we have free will, and that we're these autonomous individuals, and that we're not programmed. But what I think is so interesting about it is, I had done a tweet and said, if you think the NPC meme is about somebody else and it's not about you, then you're an NPC. Because the programming is an efficiency. There's very few people who don't have some cultural programming. But I think the NPC is just related to the people who have never had any introspection, who have never thought about it and just go along.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's just a matter of time scale,
Mm,
because like I would say everybody has uh, like culture can operate on you over a very long time.
mm-hmm.
And if it is a long time, the longer the time, the less you've thought about it. Because if
Right.
somebody tries to program you over a span of 10 seconds, well, you'd notice that would be like a very good hypnotist who
Right.
would accomplish that, right? But um, uh, over longer time spans, you're less aware of how you are being trained. And there's not
Mm.
necessarily some Illuminati there who's doing the training. It's really just everybody is training one another. So
Well,
yeah, I agree that everybody has programming, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. But you need to be willing to engage with new ideas, and you should also take some time to examine your own programming, because um, if you're not spending any time on that, then people can put bad things in there.
Well, I think what freaked people out, why people got so angry about it, so the backlash was this is dehumanizing. So it was dehumanizing to show people uh, that they're to expose people's programming, and I think that's an interesting tack to take. Like, it's an interesting thing to be upset about, that someone is dehumanizing you by showing you the part of you that actually is the program. So this is why I say it's Freudian, right? So just ego and id. But I think to take it, we use ego and id, but I mean it's just Latin for I, for ego, and then id just means either it or that.
Yeah.
And so that's the part that people are being shown with the NPC meme, right? They're being shown the id, the that,
Oh, I love that. That's
right?
great.
And so people
Yes.
people hate to be shown. I mean, Freud said, like, if when you're shown your id, you are not going to like it. In many ways it's the Jungian shadow as well, because it's that unexamined aspect of you. So he's gray, right?
Yeah.
So he's a shadow.
Yeah.
So I think that's really what people got so angry about, was like, no, you're psychoanalyzing me right now,
Yeah,
and I don't want to be
absolutely.
psychoanalyzed.
Yeah. Well, okay. So, well, yeah, let me respond to all that, because, yes, it is. I think that it is abusive to psychoanalyze people without their consent.
Hmm.
And I mean, there are degrees here, because sometimes people talk to me. Okay. Well, I won't mention names, but there's a person who annoys me sometimes, who always tells me that I have cognitive dissonance,
Oh
and I
my
think
god.
that is just like so annoying. But uh, I still talk to him sometimes. I just don't talk to him very much. But if you're if you're sort of someone who's more subtle about it, and the other person doesn't doesn't realize why that's not very nice,
Hmm.
then it's like a psychological abuse, because it goes on, and people don't have a defense for it. But I am going to, but I think that the NPC meme is actually nice. So
Okay,
it's
go
it
ahead.
is it's because um, uh, if I see how you have been programmed, and I just show that to you,
Hmm.
then I'm not taking advantage of you. See, because if I knew that and I didn't tell you, that's information that I could use to take advantage of you.
Could you though? Because one of the things about the NPC meme this is in when you were like, oh, let's talk about the NPC meme. Now with some time, I got a chance to like reanalyze a little bit, and what I thought about was, I was like, the thing about the NPC meme is it's all about the other, right? So the NPC meme is only powerful when you're looking into another culture or another subculture, and you're bringing up their programming. We can't. I don't know that we can. One of the things perhaps that people are frustrated about with their programming being brought up is they don't know how to change it in any way. It's sort of, it's showing somebody something that I think maybe deep down, well, Freud would certainly say that, but deep down they know that this is a weakness for them, right? That it's something they can't control, that id aspect, that it aspect. And so
Yeah.
you show it to them, and the question is, well, what can they actually do about it? And if they can't do anything about it, but it's going to upset them to be shown it, where do you go from there?
Okay. Okay. So yeah, let me respond to that,
Yeah.
because I think that anybody can transcend their programming, and what is required is to sort of understand how your behavior is repetitive, and
Mm.
then do something spontaneous that's different from the pattern that you've already been in. So to me, and I think that you don't really have like you need to be willing to engage with new ideas. Um, uh, so um, so I think that you have some some responsibility to be willing to transcend your own programming. Because if people can see that you are repetitive, then then um, well, for one thing, they don't need to listen to you anymore, right? Like so
Mm-hmm.
it's bad for you if other people can see how you're repetitive, because they can stop listening. And if we're talking about a situation in a market where you have you have uh, investments that and you're interacting with other people in the market, then that's also a way that you can be taken advantage of. Because if people see that your emotions work in a certain way, and say they know what you know what they know what price is going to make you start panicking,
Mm.
um, then then that's a way that they can take advantage of you. So to me, the NPC meme is nice because it's saying, uh, um, I I don't I'm telling you that I don't need to listen to you anymore unless you start to do something spontaneous, eh, and also showing you a way that you could be taken advantage of. And
I like that. Yeah.
if you don't want to engage with new ideas, um, that means that you have to and you want to avoid someone who is correctly telling you how you're programmed. That is that's that's kind of um, I think that that's a pretty bad thing for yourself, because it means you would rather be stuck in old ideas than identify a need to be spontaneous.
So I think for me, I am somebody who, and I know you're the same way too. Like I like to have my ideas challenged, right? Like I like to be able to take in new information and either let the old idea fight it out, and either it wins or it loses, or there's some synthesis of the two, whatever it is. I enjoy that. But I also don't feel strong affinities to many tribes. And I think that when you're talking about the things that are brought out in the NPC meme, the most powerful things seem to be those things that create a communal bond, right? So those memes, be it especially common enemy, right? Common enemy is such a strong tribal bond, right? The other guys are horrible, and that's what makes us good. And so I think that for a lot of people, I think what's scary about having the NPC meme presented to them, having their own id presented to them, is that they're left with the choice of either not facing it, or not facing the idea, and then there's the cognitive dissonance, right? Because every culture, especially the things that are brought up in the NPC meme, they're contradictions, right? That's what makes them powerful, is their contradictions. So you either get cognitive dissonance, or in dealing with the cognitive dissonance, you threaten expelling yourself from out of your tribe, because like at what point at what point is your mimetic framework so different that you're no longer a member of this tribe, right? At what point is the language that you're speaking different that they don't want to hang out with you anymore?
Yeah. Oh, well, yeah. Okay. Um, so yeah, let me, yeah. Okay. Well, agree with everything you said.
Mm,
And I would like to, so I think that we've kind of been assuming that if you see the NPC meme,
Mm.
that means the other person has correctly identified a way that you have been programmed. But
Okay.
it's also possible that that they're wrong, and they're just using it randomly on everybody, right?
Right.
Or they just don't understand what you're doing. So and to me, that is another nice feature about the NPC meme, which is that it makes you feel your own cognitive dissonance. See,
Mm.
but the other person doesn't necessarily know what you have felt. So it's kind of like he takes a guess, right? He takes a
Right.
guess about you and tries to see how you respond. But you don't but it's sort of it's sort of up to him to get it right. You know what I mean?
So it's sort of the person who's doing it, at least when they first do it, they're not exactly sure if they've got you. And it's all about how you react to it as to whether or not, so those people who were like, oh, this is dehumanizing, they really sort of showed all their cards.
Exactly.
If
Yes.
what if
Yes.
what you did was to say, oh, that's dehumanizing, you're dehumanizing me, then it's like, aha, gotcha, I was
Right.
right.
Exactly.
But I think that's the knee-jerk reaction of someone who has not spent any time thinking about this. So if they've spent absolutely no time trying to think about their place in the market and trying to think about the signals that they're giving to the rest of the world regarding what's going on in their own consciousness, then of course they're going to have this knee-jerk reaction. But I think that that's why it's so effective, is because what it really displays is it displays how few people spend even an instant thinking, how did those ideas get into my head in the first place? Like, whose ideas are those? When did I take those on?
Yeah. Oh man. Totally. I completely agree. Yeah. I was amazed that people are getting banned from Twitter for starting NPC accounts, because it's like they think they're like they're like Nazis, and I don't mean like
Mm-hmm.
today Nazis either. I mean like 1940s Nazis who you know who are guards in the concentration camp or something, you know.
It's a really, really strange world that we're living in, where someone can get banned off of Twitter. Like, I saw those NPC memes, and what they were doing was they were going and agreeing with people. That's all they were doing.
Oh
So,
my
so
gosh.
somebody would say something like a bad about Trump, or they would say something, some Me Too thing, and all these NPCs would do would be go and like wholeheartedly agree, just fully support it 100%, and that's what got them banned. They didn't argue at all.
Oh man. Okay,
All
so
they
you're
did
in
was
a really
agree.
bad position when people agreeing with you is a problem.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. But I think that should tell you everything you need to know about your ideology. Is if somebody, what is that principle? I forget what it's called. Somebody in the chat will bring it up. It's the idea that um, it's something like there's no ideology. The farthest flung ideology is sort of indistinguishable from parity. That it's something like you
Oh yeah,
can't.
Poe's law. Yeah,
Post
yeah.
law.
Right.
There you go.
Yeah.
And so that, if all somebody needs to do to troll you is to completely agree with everything that you say, then there's a real problem
Yeah.
with your ideology. If it upsets you that someone is agreeing wholeheartedly.
Yeah. So okay, well yeah, let me yeah, so on one of my Bitcoin stuff episodes, what I say is that it is okay to be a cult leader if you spend uh, almost zero effort at it
Mm,
because cult members are not valuable people. But
okay.
if it takes no effort to do it, you might as well. Okay. So to me, that's kind of that's kind of like the joke with somebody being an NPC and agreeing because they're saying like you easily attract cult members.
Well, it's cult behavior, but the question is again, like, and this is what I've been struggling with on it is just because the left is so that particular section of the left, right? This reactionary left is as of late they're just wearing their hearts on their sleeves because this dude Donald Trump has just got them going crazy. And I do think that a lot of it is definitely virtue signaling, okay, that term, but I think it's cultural signaling. It's people trying to find their bearings in an environment where like what is even politics anymore? That's why I see a lot of people I think that a lot of people have replaced what would they used to probably be involved in politics and now they're like, "Oh, Bitcoin is much better." Because it sort of has these, especially now, it kind of has these built-in teams and it's like there's that people can get really down into the weeds on it and all of this of what's this difference and this difference, and it's kind of fun to play that team game. But right now politics, especially in the US, is at a place where it's like, wait, who's the good guys? Who's the bad guys? What do I believe? It's going into this very, very strange place. And so I think that, I don't know that it's altogether positive to uh, to be going after people with the NPC meme because in some ways, even though they show their cards, in many ways you also show your cards because you're showing them the things that they need to guard against. You understand what I'm saying? You're showing them if so that,
But see,
that's
that's why I say the NPC meme is nice. So
right,
you
right. I
really
see what you're saying.
you should only use it. To me, it's like negging. See,
Yes.
like
Yeah.
see, you can only like it's kind of like a joke. It's like calling somebody stupid, but in a funny way that I think would it is I think it is something that people should be able to laugh at. Like because if you and you're right, you are kind of showing your cards if you do it because you could be wrong, right?
Right, right, right,
You
right.
have to be sure that you're right when you use it or you look stupid. So to me that's what makes it nice. It's actually cooperative if uh, people recognize that it's better to use it in a nice way. You see, then that is sort of a way that people can talk to one another and uh, identify um, or at least get feedback on ways that they might need to be spontaneous.
So how do you get? So let's say that we've got this thing moving in a nice way. That people are using the NPC meme in a way to sort of expose people to where their cognitive dissonance may be. That it's helping people to question those things. But don't you need some percentage of NPCs? So I'll take it to Bitcoin now. Like in terms of the marketplace, don't you need some percentage just for efficiency's sake? Some percentage of NPCs to just keep the momentum rolling along, not these people who are constantly questioning. Don't you need some percentage of them to like, don't you need that core percentage of NPCs?
Yeah, well, but it's a question of degree. Like
Mm,
people have different intelligence levels, but I think everybody has a need to be spontaneous.
mm,
And if you're somebody who is able to be extremely spontaneous, that's a way of getting closer to the center of the network. Um,
mhm,
but if you're not there, then there's a point where you aren't spontaneous enough to get much farther. Um, so I think it naturally produces a kind of a high. Well, so I'm not saying the NPC meme naturally produces a hierarchy. I don't I want not a hierarchy. It's like a contest,
Mhm.
like a ranking of people. Um, uh, uh, the um uh when people engage in the Bitcoin centrality contest,
Right.
it creates a ranking of people, and um, if you if you there's a limit to how far anybody can go in it,
Mhm.
right? But once that sort of maximizes your ability to improve the value of Bitcoin. So somebody who can win the centrality contest, which requires a very high degree of centrality, is also somebody who knows how to increase the value of Bitcoin a lot, right? So, um, and this person would also be good at identifying the programming of other people. So you would expect him uh, to be able to use the NPC meme correctly. You see what I'm saying?
So the person at the center is clearly not an NPC, right? This person would, because this person is generating the culture, you could
Well,
say.
wait. So I think it should be seen as a spectrum because I don't think anybody like a NPC is just a robot who can't learn, and
Right, right, right.
everybody has some capacity for learning.
So the
But
NPC spectrum, are we gonna
yeah,
coin that right here?
yes,
NPCs,
there's an
where are
NPC,
they on the NPC spectrum? Okay, go
right?
ahead. Go ahead. Break it
But
down.
but I would say that even the most spontaneous person has unexamined parts of
Sure,
himself.
of course.
It's just that they're going to be more difficult for other people to identify.
But the people, so as you get, so maybe that's it, that it's like if you can't identify, if it would be very difficult for you to make an NPC meme of a person, would you say that that would see? But see, this is what I think is weird about it, because the person at the center of the network would have a pattern, a recognizable pattern of behavior. That's what everybody else is imitating. So you would think that they would be prime for the NPC meme, because part of the NPC meme is, oh, this is the thing that this person does over and over.
Yeah, you're right. But once people have learned the pattern,
Aha.
if they don't get a new pattern, then
Ah,
they lose the contest after that.
we've talked about this before. We've talked about the idea that by the time it gets to the outer edges,
Yeah.
which those would be the people most highest on the NPC spectrum, by the time it gets to
Right.
them, by the time it gets to them, they're like just the littlest part spontaneous. They're mostly NPC. By the time it gets to them, whatever it is that they're doing is already old. Maybe
Yeah.
it might be 3 or 4 iterations old if you
Yeah.
get to the center.
Right.
It's like fashion. It's like fashion.
Yeah.
If you're in a location that's very, very, man, I remember this happening back when I was young and in the rave scene, and I was DJing all around, but I was living in LA, and then I would, go to DC and I would go to New York, and it was like that was where it was at. Then I would go and play somewhere and the thing was, in those places there was a high level of individuality in terms of the way that people dressed, what people were doing, and some of those things would catch on, some not, but they were like the tastemakers were there, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Then I would go to like some podunk like Oklahoma City or something, which had a rave scene. And first off, everybody would be dressed exactly the same. And it would be a style that was like 8 months old.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we're talking about here. Like they were super high on the NPC spectrum.
Right. Yeah.
And I think I see that. It's weird because I actually am starting to see that in Bitcoin. I think that there's a large enough network of people communicating now that I'm starting to see people saying things where I'm like, even trolls now, where I'm starting to see trolls where I'm like, ooh, that's some old ass trolling you're doing right now. Like
Right.
that is really nobody's used that one in a long time. You're way late, dude. It's interest. It's very interesting. But I think it proves your center of the network idea for consensus based as opposed to top of the pyramid. Like, dude, when you told me that, I was like, oh, I'm taking this one. This is really top of the pyramid. No, it's center of the network. That's super deep, man. It's
Okay.
really
Well,
good.
well,
It's a good one.
well. I mean, I got that from Craig Wright. I mean, I was already kind of doing it, so but he,
Are you saying from the his small world complete graph? Is that what you
yeah,
got it
yeah.
from? Let me tell you. I don't think that he was necessarily talking about. Well, I know he wasn't in that talking about humans interacting.
That's right. But see, I'm trying to figure out how he is an NPC so that I can win the network centrality competition. But I have to use his ideas that I think are genuinely good. I have to be open to
Right,
all the
right,
new
right. Yeah.
information that he
Yes,
presents
yes,
me.
yes. So, I mean, it is interesting that I don't know whether it says something about. I don't know that it says anything about him. It probably says more about you. But the fact that he has not figured out that if were he to just translate many of his ideas to human behavior, they're incredibly profound when they're human behavior, but they're kind of just like, yeah, okay, that's how Bitcoin works. When you're talking about the Bitcoin network and a bunch of nodes, like everybody dismisses them, but articulated as, oh, but this is how the humans of Bitcoin act too. It's very profound, actually.
Oh, okay. Well, thanks. Well, I mean, it's hard for me to know what Craig actually does understand because he doesn't reveal all of his information. So, my plan is to just come up with ideas as quickly as possible, and hopefully they have the highest degree of originality.
So I would love to explore a little more getting the ideas of getting to the center of the network because I don't think it can ever be talked about enough, but I think about it all the time now.
Oh
Uh,
my God. That's how Bitcoin works. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, let's talk about that. Okay. Well, why don't you, yeah, say what your thoughts are on it.
okay, so yeah, I have been thinking about what are the things that are sticky, right? Because that's ultimately what you're talking about. And if we take it back to like tastemakers or style makers, it tends to be that, and I don't think that it's just because kind of you get it right and then everybody's looking at you, because I know that there are people who are like one hit wonders. There does tend to be individuals who, for one reason or another, and I can't, it's hard to tell sometimes if it's conscious or not, who seem to just be constantly at the center of networks. They seem to constantly be setting the style, constantly be the ones who people are pulling memes from. And I wonder if there's any patterns that can be seen that what more than getting to the center of the network, I'm most concerned with how do you quickly spot who is at the center of a network? Like, how do you walk into a network and be like, that's the person at the center? That's what
Okay.
I'm most interested
Okay.
in.
Wait. I have an answer for that. This
Okay.
is what my next video is going to be about,
Oh, well,
actually.
see, look at that. Vince
But
Stradamus.
no, unfortunately, the people who are in the contest obscure the winner. So it is, in
Hmm.
fact, impossible to figure out if they're doing a good job. You don't know who is at the center because you have to enter the contest in order to find where the center is. So if people are doing the contest correctly, you can identify who is in the contest,
Okay.
but you don't know who the winner is until you understand the details about how the people are interacting with one another.
But
The
question here's my other question. Don't In order for you, since we know that at the outskirts of the contest, they're already late.
Yeah,
So it's like light traveling, more than a light year or whatever it is, traveling these long distances, right? So it's rippling through the network and probably changing a little bit as it goes along. But so that means that if you're in the contest, but you're not really close to the center, by the time you're like, oh, that person is the leader or that person is at the center of the network, they may already no longer be at the center of the network.
Exactly. Yeah.
So do you actually know if do you actually know who's at the center of the network before you yourself are at the center of the network?
Well, you don't necessarily know even when you're at the center, because
Mm,
it's kind of about predicting the future state, right? So you're going off of what you think the future is going to be based on the information that you have. And it's your job to understand the network as a whole well enough to know where you're supposed to go. See, so, but nobody else, I mean, if you're winning, nobody else is going to tell you the correct answer. You know what I mean?
how do you know if you're like, because can you even be winning if you don't know if you're winning?
See,
Like
but
that seems like a contradiction.
well,
Paradox, really.
you have to bring in your individual knowledge. So now it's kind of like Hayek. It's like a
Okay.
Hayekian thing. Everybody has their own degree of spontaneity, or their own whatever it is they know better than other people.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to figure out how to use that in a way that puts you closer to the center.
Elaborate on that a little bit.
Well, okay, so you said that there's some people who are like the trendsetters, right?
Yeah,
So
sure.
you have to be the trendsetter in order to get to the center.
But
So
how do you like how, because it seems like there's the problem is lag, signal lag,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
So it's like you have to wait for it to be bounced back from, let's say, even like the early majority before you know, oh, I've got something, right?
yeah,
Like that diffusion of innovation curve. You don't have to wait till the end. That's too late. But it's somewhere on the upslope, that
yeah,
initial upslope, it's got to be bounced back to you. But there's a huge lag.
yeah, yeah. That's why it's about predicting the future. So
Hmm.
you have to understand the other people well enough to have some idea about what is going to become popular. Like you don't have to do it like if you could do it perfectly all the time, then you would be at the center. See?
But why do so? God, man, see, this it's such a paradox to me because when I think of a trendsetter, I think of somebody who doesn't necessarily care what other people think. But clearly, I do agree with you what the mechanics are for setting a trend. So that would necessarily mean that, in fact, they do care
Okay. Oh yeah,
and
yeah,
that they
yeah.
are
Okay.
predicting what other people will want.
This is great. No, this is another thing I talk about in the next video. Yeah.
Okay.
So yes, you need to be someone who isn't easily manipulated in order to be a trendsetter.
Mm-hmm.
So um, that means like when individual people are telling you that you suck or that you should do something differently. I mean, you don't want unsolicited advice is worthless because it's
Sure.
public information.
Right.
So you need to be not easily manipulated, but and so and it's good to convince people that you don't care whether they listen to you, because someone who knows how to get to the center knows that people will be listening to him even if they're not you know so you need to convince people that you don't care whether they listen individually, and then it is your job to understand like the crowd and
Mm-hmm.
create something that they're going to respond to, or not necessarily the crowd but the the next people in the network, like whatever means of that information is transmitted.
So it's more about so like this is like the Gustave Le Bon idea. This is like that the crowd is not the sum of its parts. That the crowd has its own. This is like zeitgeist, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So you don't care about any individuals. You really don't even pay attention to individuals. Like individuals could go fuck themselves.
Well, you do pay attention to individuals, but you pay attention to the people you think are important, but you shouldn't reveal to them that you think they're important necessarily.
Got it.
And you shouldn't necessarily reveal to everybody else who you think is important.
So because that moves them closer to the center of the network.
Yeah,
Is that why?
you're giving away good information.
Aha. So this will happen regardless of okay. So um people, there's like marketing gurus and stuff will talk about going after key influencers, this idea of like key influencers, and the idea is that those people are at the center of the network, or that they're close. That's what makes them an influencer. But it's almost like you're saying no, but if you identify them as an influencer, you've actually blown it in
Yeah,
a way.
right.
So you should be so if you know somebody's an influencer, one, you shouldn't tell them that they're an influencer.
Oh, yes.
And you shouldn't tell anybody else that they're an influencer.
Yeah, okay. Let me talk about this, because
Okay.
I've had so many conversations from people in both BTC and ABC who try to get me to say that I like, or to change my mind about things. Right.
They want to win you over. They want to win
Right.
you over to their
Right.
side. Yeah.
And to me, that's sort of like they're already revealing that they are below me in the contest.
Because
And
they can do it themselves. Because if
yeah,
they were above you, they would just be like, well, I'll just do it.
right.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's so counterintuitive, especially in sort of the today's marketing world. Like the idea that no, you should be reaching out to those people who, like, well, celebrity spokesperson is a prime example. That's you reaching out, but really what you should be doing is you shouldn't be telling them that. You should be finding another way to move your message or to move a meme through this person without letting them know that, hey, I'm about to move a meme through you.
Yeah. Right.
And then because
oh, I love that way of putting it. I'm
right?
going to move a meme through you, because that is somebody.
That's what you're doing.
If you can move a meme through a person, then clearly they are an NPC, because you have programmed them. See?
Well, I'm thinking of Craig's graph right now. I'm thinking of everything, the signals going, and so if you're at the center of a network, clearly what you're doing is you're moving memes through nodes to other memes. That's what makes you at the center. You must, because you can't be connected. Well, I guess so then there's the question. I mean, are you singularly connected to every other node, as Craig's small world graph says, or are there more hops?
Oh my God, this is great. I mean, yeah, I talk about that in my next video also. But I think that there is a difference, because miners all do need to know one another. So
Yes.
they all need to be connected to all the rest. But in the trend setting competition, there can be division of labor, because there can be different kinds of ideas that are important to the whole. So so people can specialize. So I don't think that it is the network that we're talking about is as closely connected as the miners network.
So in some ways, in getting to the center of the network, what ends up happening is, because you don't really, you can't, it's almost like, it's so interesting, dude. I haven't thought about this enough, but this is making my brain go crazy, like trying to visualize what this looks like. You can't be connected to those individuals. You can't be tightly connected to those individuals who are the highest on the NPC spectrum. For some reason, that's not how it works, because if that was the case, they would have the information way faster than they're getting the information.
Right. It's just that there's just a limited number of people total that you can have a real connection to.
Right. And so the people, if you want to get to the center of the network, really it's about finding the individuals who are, is it a chronology thing? Like, are you looking for the trends or the memes, the fresh memes?
Well, no, I mean, ultimately, it's really about your understanding of the specifics of the network. So we're
Okay.
talking about it in really abstract terms, but if you want to really be in the contest, you have to go beyond what we're talking about and come up with something specific to the situation, or some new abstract idea that other people haven't figured out yet.
And that gets you
It
people
gets you
paying
close.
attention. Is that really what the center of the network is that other people who have high levels of connection are paying attention to you? Is that, I mean,
Yeah,
is that what you're
yeah,
trying to
yeah. And the reason that people are doing that is because you're the best at predicting the network's future state. See,
get? Okay.
so
So
it's not
so then
just
it
about
does
it.
build on itself. It
So
does.
it's not just about creating viral memes. That's part of it.
Hmm.
You want to make a viral idea that genuinely teaches people something and improves their behavior in some way.
So it's got to be valuable.
Right.
You have to deliver. If you're not delivering value, well, I guess that's very true with fashion, right? Like, it has to, whatever it is that you're doing can't get laughed at on the street. People have to be like, oh wow, that's amazing. Like, you, so then that way everybody's looking like, oh, look at all the attention this guy got by wearing that or doing that or whatever it is. I'm going to do that now somewhere else, not in his presence, because he's already at the center of the network. I'm going to go like somewhere else. And then there's your node, right? So now you've made that connection. And then this person's going to get the same. And that's why it takes time, right? Is that each one of these people need to go into a new, fresh area where you aren't. Because if they just do it around you, it doesn't, you get all the value.
Right. Yeah.
It's interesting. It's
Oh,
interesting.
okay. So now let's imagine. Okay, I love your fashion thing. Okay, but let's
Well, it's perfect.
imagine.
Yeah, it's consensus, right?
Yeah, yeah. But instead of like clothing or like style of talking, it's pure ideas.
Okay.
Okay, that's the fashions that we're talking about,
Okay.
and not just abstract ideas, but ideas about how to best improve Bitcoin's value,
Okay.
things like that. So there's going to be uh, uh, so when people are thinking about that, so see, and if you have these kind of ideas first, you're the one who can take advantage of them first. See what I mean?
Absolutely. Yes.
So um, so uh, um, so when you're talking about this fashion contest between pure ideas and ideas about the whole system, and ideas about how to best improve the value of the whole system, I think that the best framework for doing this is to just imagine that you are a part of a much bigger brain,
Okay.
and just imagine that you're one neuron in the brain.
Okay.
See, and you're trying to interact with the whole brain. That's how I do it. So like I come up with an idea, and what I say is like, this is what I want, this is what I think the brain should be thinking about.
Okay.
So I have like a version of what I think Bitcoin's consciousness should be.
Mm.
Like if you watch my show, that's kind of
Mhm.
what the show is. It's my version of Bitcoin's consciousness. But we can have a contest with that. See? So
Right.
you can have a different idea about what is in Bitcoin's consciousness. See? What is the big brain thinking about? See?
But my ideas are limited in some ways by what ideas have been successful in the past, because I can't make a complete and total U-turn. It has to be sympathetic if I
Right.
really want it to carry far.
Right. Yeah. So you have to cooperate with the people who already exist. And that's
Mhm.
what understanding the specifics of the network is about. Um, so, and this is also, so So I mean, money is itself a form of cooperation between many people, and uh, Bitcoin just is a it greatly increases the incentive for people to learn how to think together, since they're all kind of uh, they all benefit from one another's economic activity in a really big way.
And in Bitcoin, maybe more than even in fashion. Okay, so let me back it up to something that you said because I thought it was really interesting. Where you said if you're the first person to come up with an idea, you can take advantage of it. Does that necessarily mean that you need to actually implement it? But then my question becomes, in an
No,
open source community, how does like
no, you don't. So what I think that like everybody has a limited amount of time.
mhm,
So I think that people should create uh, pieces of open source business models, and they can put that out for free, and that will bring them closer to the center of the network. And so that's a benefit that you get even though you haven't actually made a business. If you make something
mhm.
that other people do actually want to take the next step on, then they can do it, right?
Yeah, I've
So
been seeing that a lot lately. That's been a recurring theme, and that's what I've been working on lately. Is more. I've been calling these guys tool makers,
yeah,
but it's
okay.
like,
Well, see,
yeah,
interconnectivity. See,
yes,
so um, you want so okay. So if you can come up with a business model that's so good that when you tell people about it, you create a contest to implement it, then you're at the center of the network because you're the first competitor in the contest. See, because you're still
yes.
trying to build it first, right?
But so that's one way that you will know which business models should be paying attention to is that when someone introduces this business model to the community, that many different people that there starts to be a rush and you start to see little pieces of this thing popping up.
Yeah.
Would you say that would be a signal?
Yes, definitely.
Okay. Yeah. No, I totally think that I think that's coming. I think I'm seeing little pieces of it because what I'm seeing is I'm seeing good tool makers who have an idea of tools. They're getting to the center of the network because they're making things that are useful, but yes, what's lacking is who they will give the center of the network to. Those people who are there is somebody who says, well, here's a business model that uses all of these tools,
Yeah.
because now all of a sudden you gave their tools some meaning, and they're like, oh yeah, I made a hammer and you can use that to build a house, and this guy just said, oh yeah, we can build houses,
Yeah.
that's that we don't I don't feel like we've yet had that house discussion laid out. I don't feel like we've had that the business model laid out. I feel like we've had the tools laid out. We've had the idea of like we could do this, we could do this, we could do this, we could do this, but nobody's just said like laid it out like a Google like listen, people will want to search the internet and we can advertise to them while they're of the things that they're searching. And it's like, "Oh god, that's a business model. Like that's great." I don't feel like we have we're lacking that right now.
Oh, okay. Well, perhaps you should. Let me just suggest that you might want to uh, enhance your connectivity in the BSV
Oh,
contest.
I've been listening. I've been believe me, I've been listening. I've been listening, and I'm an entrepreneur. But it's like there hasn't been anything where I've just been. What I always rely upon is I rely upon what I call the duh factor. When I know that I've heard a good business model, is when I'm like, well, duh.
Oh, I yeah,
Isn't somebody doing that already? No.
yeah.
Then I'm
No,
like,
I
oh, billion
totally
dollar business, billion dollars.
100% agree with that. Yeah. Well, but the duh factor, that's getting to the center of the network, right?
Right,
Because
right.
you've that's an idea that lots of people are going to respond to.
Well, you predict it, like you say. You're
Right.
the reason it's duh is that it's like, oh, that should have already been here.
Right.
already. So I
Yeah.
know that everybody's going to just adopt it because the idea is kind of, in some ways, it's already like, it's old in a way already. It's like, it's ripe.
Okay. So the NPC meme is a way of saying duh to other people.
Yes, 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 yes. I like that. So I think then in if you're talking about the constructive NPC meme, is in some ways like Orwell, like Winston says in 1984, in the opening pages where he's like, the best books tell you what you already know. So in a way, the NPC meme used well and constructively is this sort of tool to show somebody that they already believe something that you are introducing. So like you get what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah. No. No, I totally agree. That's great.
I think that's super important, and it's something that, so whenever I've got a new business and I'm trying to share the vision, that's always what I go to. And I'm realizing now I'll do it more consciously, but I realize I do it unconsciously. I always try to tie it already into their beliefs, you know. And I think a lot of people do this when they're selling a business. It's like,
Definitely.
well, they're like,
Definitely.
whenever somebody's like, well, it's this crossed with this, or it's the Uber of this.
Yeah.
It's the idea of like, no, you already believe this. You already believe all of these things, but yet here I'm going to close the loop for you,
Yeah.
and that's the center of the network.
Yeah. Oh, this okay. Well, how about if we end our discussion
Okay,
here?
cool, yeah.
Do you have any
Well, we don't
final
want
thoughts?
yeah, we don't want to give people too much information. Now my
Yeah,
brain is
right.
throwing it out.
Yeah.
Like, no, I'm going to use
Shut up. Shut up. You're revealing too much. Stop the broadcast.